But I thought managers are a lot different, and you're there in the spotlight all the time when you're the manager. You're the one. You pick the team. But I thought he's done a fabulous job. Looking back now, on the Saturday afternoon, Football Focus, he was there, that same smile and everything. And we didn't notice anything. But when we've seen the tributes and what have you on the television, repeats, and it was the wife actually, she noticed, she said that his smile didn't seem to reach his eyes. After looking at it for a few times, you know, it looks as if the smile, so whether there was something wrong, we don't know, you know.
I only ever saw him happy though, Rog.
Well, I don't think I ever seen him miserable at all, honestly. Even when he lost at golf, he wasn't miserable.
Well, Gary's parents, along with the rest of the family here in Cardiff this evening. Gary, are you any closer to understanding why?
No, I just said what Roger was saying there. You know, I was with him that afternoon in Football Focus, and I feel as if, you know, having spent 6 years playing with him, I feel as if I know him well enough to have sensed if there was something bothering him, or, you know, if there had been, he's got enough trust in me to come and speak to me. But there was nothing. It was the usual Gary Speed. You were cracking on about, you know, Gordon Strachan and ex-teammates, talking about the Leeds days, like old players do. Talking about David Batty, and there was nothing. There was nothing to suggest that there was a problem anywhere in his life.
And that's, Ron, what we've heard from a lot of people. But is there a sense that a footballer can be held up and put on a pedestal, but yet be in a sense of isolation and actually have greater needs than perhaps the outside world can see?
I think that's a question that we've got to ask ourselves, and you know, the relative associations, the LMA, the PFA, you know, we've got to look at this and continue the fight really within football. Doesn't matter how an individual, how a person may look on the outside, that, you know, in the inside it could be completely different, and, you know, hopefully we can stop this from happening again.
I mean, the game has changed beyond recognition, hasn't it, Mark, in the last 20 years? In the Premier League era, effectively, a man can be made a millionaire overnight, can be given fame overnight, but yet not necessarily given the guidance to deal with those twin imposters, if you like. Does something, as Ryan's alluding, need to be done, especially within the LMA and the PFA?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody's agreed on that.
LMA.
Well, that's right. There are 50-plus players who played with Gary in the international side here in the VIP suites at the Cardiff City Stadium. And there are people from every club that Gary Speed played at, every manager that Gary Speed played under, including the first of those, and that was Howard Wilkinson at Leeds United. Now, Howard, we've heard about Gary Speed the footballer, Gary Speed the manager, but you knew Gary Speed the man as well, and that was probably the best bit, wasn't it?
Well, as with all great players, that's the bit that matters, that's the bit that makes the difference, that's the thing that made him realise that if he put his head down, got his head down and started to invest in himself and invest in his career, you know, there would be a payoff. And that's what he did that all his life. That's the reason he played as long as he did. And then towards the end of his career as a player, he started then to look at management, and again, same thing, he invested in that, try to make sure he's as well prepared as anybody could be. And on top of that, he was a genuine, honest team man. People were delighted when he was on the sheet. Players, you know, he was one of those names that players look for. If Gary was on the sheet, they were pleased about that. They knew that if he went out there, he went out there to play for the team. And he had a lot to contribute. As you well know, he was, for us, he was invaluable.
A top chap, though.
A top chap, yes. A top chap. I'm on record, I think, a number of times as saying, in his time, I played him in every position, either during the game or picked him before the game, every position except goalkeeper, and never, ever, ever one moan about it. Just put the shirt on and got on with it.
Richard, I think the LMA have been heavily involved in what's going on here this evening and played a big part in that process, because the management business lost a very promising member potentially there, didn't it?
Yes, he was a very talented young manager. He won his last 4 out of 5 matches for Wales. He was very proud to when he became manager of Wales. I think he played, 85 caps and captained 44 times. So, and I think looking down, he would be very proud of what's going on here today. And I know all of his family members are as well. They're very thankful to the Welsh FA, to everybody who's done a tremendous job to try and celebrate his life and help the family as well. So it's been a testing and trying time for them, but hopefully they're coming through it.
We've heard the guys in the studio talk about the stresses and strains involved in the management game, and people maybe bottle that up a little bit. The message has to be, if there's an example set here, is talk to somebody, hasn't it?
Yes, I think without going down a slightly different route, what's important to the managers and the coaches going forward is going to be St George's Park, which opens in August. And I think education, training, personal development, career pathways, all those, that sort of investment in those areas is something we've not seen in the past in football coaching and management. And our focus will be on helping coaches become better coaches, coaches become managers, and managers become better leaders.
Richard, Howard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sprint. So the fans arriving in their numbers here at the Cardiff City Stadium tonight. Well, the Welsh players have been shown footage of Gary playing for Wales prior to this game this evening, and we'll get the thoughts and memories of some of those players when we come back. Of Matt Jones this evening. Well, let's hear now from some of the Welsh players. Gary Speed, to many of them, was deeply respected, even adored, and they cherish their own memories of their former manager.
Gary was one that just lit up the room when he walked in. You know, he was an inspiration to us all.
To be able to play under him, with him being the manager, was the biggest inspiration you needed, really.
A great role model for the younger players coming through, and someone, even people the same age as him, you know, we all looked up to him.
Growing up, also, you watched him from afar, you hear stories about him. You build this figure up in your mind, you know, and it's not often when you meet, you know, the people you look up to, your heroes, you know, they can live up to that and even exceed it, and that's what he did.
He was a great guy. He was an absolutely great guy. I just can't speak highly enough of him.
He was an incredible influence on me. He was someone I admired, and to have had the chance to have even just met him, and obviously the chance to have worked under him was something I'll never forget.
I only knew him a short time, just over a year, but it shows in my eyes how much of a great man he was, because he's touched me and he's had an effect on my life.
What we've done with Wales, you know, I think is nothing short of phenomenal.
Working with him over the last 12 months was just an honour and a privilege.
He was just a leader, you know, he's the sort of man you would look up to. You'd look to as, you know, a figure in the changing room, both as he was as manager and probably was as a player.
He was always approachable. You could ask him anything and he'd give you an honest answer. And it was, for me personally, it was a special period and one that I'll never forget.
I think of him on a daily basis still because, you know, he has such an impression on each and every one of us, and he'll be with us forever in many ways.
I think the memorial game should be, you know, a good occasion for us to remember, you know, a great man, a great footballer, a great family man, and a great manager for this country. And I think obviously it's going to be a night for people to reflect, and probably an emotional night, but hopefully, you know, it can be a sellout at Cardiff and everybody can be there to remember him.
Sometimes when people pass on, we tend to say, he was a great fellow, she was a lovely girl, and we put a bit of icing on it. But in this instance, in this circumstance, with this individual, everybody that's saying lovely things, it's all true.
Many former Welsh internationals here. Everybody who ever played in a Welsh team alongside Gary Speed has been invited to the Cardiff City Stadium this evening. Somebody who played alongside Gary with the national team and then managed Gary with the national team is Mark Hughes, another North Walian. Mark, it's meant to be a celebration this evening. It'll be interesting to see how we all manage to cope with that, won't it?
Yeah, it will be difficult, I'm sure, on occasions, but I think it's important that we do celebrate what Gary represented and what he did in his career, both as a player and as a manager, and obviously his legacy is his beautiful family that he leaves behind. But I think tonight's an opportunity just to re-emphasise the strength of feeling that Gary generated in his time with us, both as a player, for me as a captain as well, but as a person as well. I think the fact that Gary's strength of personality was able to make people just gather around him and enjoy his company, I think there's a great strength of his. His ability as a player was undoubted, and his ability as a captain was absolutely magnificent for me, and I just feel very fortunate that I was able to count him as a teammate, as a captain and as a friend.
Thanks very much, Mark. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.
And everyone's here to enjoy the occasion, I think. Mark Hughes, former Wales manager, former Wales teammate of Gary Speed's.
Please welcome to the stage, accompanied by the Risca Male Voice Choir and singing Cwm Rhondda, a giant of Welsh and indeed world music, Bryn Terfel.
Crystal fountain, whence the healing stream shall flow. Let the fiery cloudy pillar lead me all my journey through. Strong deliverer, strong deliverer, be thou still my strength and shield. Be thou still my strength and shield. When I tread the verge of Jordan, bid my anxious fears subside. Death of death and hell's destruction, land me safe on Canaan's side. Songs of praises, songs of praises.